bags, their rides. What about our rides?
Well, that's Representative Tim Burchett talking about Abrego Garcia released from U.S. custody into ICE hands. There is now a large rally as we join you on Wake Up Missouri this morning on a Monday morning in Baltimore as supporters are rallying for this illegal alien who was caught in Tennessee, human trafficking, who had orders of protection against his wife, from his wife, had solicited in court filings, had solicited nude photographs of a minor, and there are millions petitioning to prevent him from being extradited to either Costa Rica if he pleads guilty or to Uganda per ICE. Welcome in. I'm Randy Tobler. Stephanie Bell there, back from the rodeo, along with Drake and John Marsh as well.
Good morning, Randy.
Did you get on a bull and hold on for a half a second? No?
I volunteered Drake, but unfortunately they let the professionals handle the rodeo work.
Drake, did you ride the bull?
No, I actually volunteered to be one of the cowgirls' horses, but they said no.
All right.
It was really well done, though. I mean, so they brought mutton busting, which is for the little kids riding sheep back for the first time. It was packed. It was sold out Saturday night. Of course, the event culminates with bull riding, but there's a whole bunch of other fun events like the women doing barrel racing, which was really cool.
And just the women in general. It was a great time.
And entertainment as well, right? A lot of
the rodeo clowns are really good, and it was
bullfighters.
I thought you didn't like clowns. You've said before you didn't like clowns, but rodeo clowns are different.
I'm going to make an exception. They're not scary.
Right,
they're just silly.
That's right. They refer to themselves as bullfighters, not clowns.
All righty. All right. Bullfighters, not clowns. You have to, I don't know, you have to have a lot of courage and a lot of moxie to get in the ring with a bull. I'm sorry. And their job is very important, right? Because they pull the bull away if someone falls off and get the bull away. So we think no one was injured, right? Everything was fine?
Not that we saw, yeah.
All right.
I mean, it looked like they were going to need some chiropractic work maybe after the bucking and all of it, because they did bareback, bucking bronchos and stuff.
I just think of the back films, the x-rays, that's what goes through my mind when I see the bull ride. I'm like, oh my goodness, my back's killing me just watching that. I don't know. Whoa.
It's impressive.
Guys are tough.
Yeah, and they're wearing like a full flak jacket on, like in the brace that goes above their head. It's crazy.
Helmet with a cowboy hat on top of it, for sure.
Well, there's a lot going on. Of course, we have the immigration proceedings as we're talking about that. Interviews yesterday with J.D. Vance, some interesting going on there in his interview with Kristen Welker on Messed Up on the Meet the Depressed. And I think locally, interesting story. We ought to talk about it, that Catherine Hanaway was on Jennifer Bukowski's show yesterday, right?
Yes, she was.
And on Scott Fawn's interview yesterday on This Week in Missouri Politics. So we'll be unpacking what she had to say to Scott at 7:05 or a little bit after that. And then later on, we're going to talk about Russia-Ukraine with Kurt Jefferson. He's a professor of global leadership now in Louisville. But he was here at Westminster College for years. Yeah, I said it right. Didn't I get that right, Drake? Louisville and Spalding College, Spalding University. He was at Westminster for years and adored by his students and really an expert on international matters. To see what he thinks of the stalemate going on over there in Russia and Ukraine, what it means for our national security, what does it mean for our stock of weapons, particularly? What does it mean for Western Europe? And is this reminiscent of the lead up to World War II, or is that an overplay? So Scott, we'll be talking about that with Kurt Jefferson at 8:08. Your calls all morning. Welcome at 800-529-5572 or on the text line 573-874-9390. And in other developments, this is really interesting. Donald Trump the other day said this. If I can find it. Is it going to play? Yep. There we go. Of course, it's not going to play. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, is all worked up because now Trump's talking about sending in the National Guard to Chicago. And just yesterday, he on Truth Social posted he wants to send National Guard or considering it into Baltimore. ABC has confirmed that, in fact, they are, I don't know what the word is, but they are staging, getting ready for deploying National Guard troops in American cities. It's a robust discussion among those who are concerned about government overreach, federal government overreach into local and state jurisdictions? Is this something a governor should do rather than the president?
Well, and there's there's no question that the president has more authority in D.C. than he does elsewhere as far as control of the police. So there is some question about, how far can he go in these other cities based on the authority he has.
And I think what that amounts to, though, is the question of, if it's to protect federal assets, like he was protecting the federal building there, was it the FBI building in Los Angeles,
right.
I think. I think you can make a cogent argument that at least having a presence in and around those facilities, makes sense.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
In a statement.
So, it turns out when you talk to conservatives, libertarians, people on the right side of the political spectrum, it's mixed. Everyone's not against that. I'm all for it. Bring the National Guard in. Daddy's in town. Let's clean it up. Washington, D.C. has shown that clearly when there is a presence and they're not enforcing the law, they're not arresting people, when there's a presence of law and of authority, and the appearance, the optics of keeping the peace, look what happens. There hasn't been a murder there for over a week and a half.
Yeah, you can't deny the record that Trump has had since he issued that executive order and took over the D.C. police. I mean, the record is impeccable. I think probably better than anyone had even expected. I think the question is, we've got a lot of libertarians who tune in, and I think there is some question about, who should be funding these cities, right? And whether or not you and I should be helping to, because our funds go to the federal government, whether you and I should be helping to clean up Chicago and D.C. and Baltimore, whether it should be on the backs of their citizens. And I think that's a legitimate question is, I think for D.C. it's a little bit different with, the federal government being there and with Trump's authority there. But as he moves into other cities, I think the question is, shouldn't the cities be using its own resources or should we be, using the state resources or federal resources to clean them up?
Well, then there's the question, too, of how long do you deploy the Guard for? Well, we saw them go to the operations in the Middle East for over a year. So could they be deployed to a city for over a year? We've seen them stay on station for months on end after major disasters like hurricanes. So that's a question, I'm sure the families would like to know.
Well, leadership is about sending messages and about making clear what priorities are and what expected behavior is and what is right and what is wrong and what is good and what is bad. Would anyone deny that what's going on in our American cities is bad? It's wrong. And so leadership means setting an example, showing it works, and then maybe, like you said, John, wherever the timeline is, pulling it back and saying, now I dare you not to continue law and order policies in your city.
I agree full-heartedly. The only part that I would say I don't like is that I think the governors of these states with these cities should have some sort of say, only because I want to see, I want to see. I think that we need to see these liberal cities fall because of bad policy, bad policing. They have crime out of control. Mm-hmm. And I think places like St. Louis in a red state, we already have the FBI coming there. I think this could be an opportunity to kind of like reset the city landscape where New York, L.A., Chicago aren't the best cities to live in anymore.
In other words, just let them absolutely fall into chaos, have all the businesses move out, have them fall into disrepair, and then, like Detroit did several years ago, and then they have to be resurrected.
Yep.
Huh?
Well, and I think, for some of these, we're already there. It feels like we're already there. And
Yeah.
Randy, you talked about sending a message. These other governors are complaining, don't come here. Well, Trump has the upper hand. He says, fine, I don't want to come there. Clean your city up.
Right.
You have two choices. Either I come there or you do it yourself. And I think that's a really good place for Trump to be.
So I think there are some arguments regarding government overreach or not, and what's appropriate for the federal government to get involved in. FBI believes that John Bolton should face charges over allegedly emailing classified documents to family. As we were on the air Friday morning, of course, we were reporting that they raided the house of John Bolton, carrying out boxes and boxes of material. And now, as things are being reported more, apparently it's over whether he was sending classified stuff to family members. I don't know. The alleged crime was first identified in 2020, according to reporting in the New York Post, that through a, quote, very specific intelligence capacity, close quote, that helped produce damning intelligence that Bolton had, quote, transferred classified documents to his wife and daughter from his White House desk before Trump fired him in September 2019. And you see, this is the kind of a thing that you wonder how many legitimate, would-be productive, damning, dare I say, indictment-worthy investigations were squashed by the Biden administration. How many do we not know about? This one's being reported. That's what frightens the heck out of me. I don't know. You got to wonder. Well, I'm glad that they're going after it and figuring it out. And then
what about the guy who had the classified documents stacked next to his Corvette in the garage?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. And in some personal Missouri happenings, we need to recognize the death of Representative Ken Waller, fairly young man, 63 years old, died apparently of a massive heart attack. Was it Saturday evening?
Over the weekend, yeah.
Over the weekend, and he was the first county executive, I think, in Jefferson County, if I'm not mistaken, and down from the Herculaneum area, and sort of a trailblazer politically in that area. So,
yeah, and really beloved. I mean, there were lots of nice tributes from Missouri lawmakers over the weekend, and people saying like, he was, I think, meeting with the Secretary of State's office just last week, did a lot of work there in Jefferson County, and was running for state senate actually. So his opponent in that state senate race said, "I'm suspending my campaign through the funeral," and everyone asking for prayers for his family.
And we also are asking prayers for Cindy O'Loughlin's granddaughter. She's been giving on her Facebook page, the Chronicle, she was in a car hit by a drunk driver in Texas, was in an induced coma because of a severe traumatic brain injury, regained enough capacity to be transferred to Barnes Hospital. And there's more to that story. And I want to just pour some adulation and affection for Cindy O'Loughlin and the way she conducts her life and herself personally, aside from her political life, when we a little bit later in the program. So we'll talk about that as well. Busy show. Glad you're with us. Happy Monday. Things are cooling off a little bit. It feels more like autumn. Back with the Daily DC Rundown in a bit.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
question for
Please.
you, Mr. Vice President. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Elon Musk is halting his plans to create a new political party, in part because he wants to support you for president in 2028. I know you've been asked about this. You said you have not discussed this with him.
That's right.
But do you see yourself as the apparent future of the MAGA movement?
No, I see myself as a vice president who's trying to do a good job for the American people, Kristen. And if I do a good job, and if the president continues to be successful, as I know that he will be, the politics will take care of itself. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. But
There's J.D. Vance with Kristen Welker. Here's Stephanie, Daily D.C. Rundown.
Right now, the politics seem to be taking care of themselves as Polymarket has J.D. Vance leading, and I think most speculation says he is the heir apparent, but for maybe Marco Rubio, who has, 5 jobs officially or something, and is also doing a really good job. So there's still a lot of time to let this play out, but I think if we continue down the path that we're on, it's no question that J.D. Vance seems to be the front runner.
And like most Veeps that are on the coattails of their predecessor, it all depends in that last year or so how they judge the previous administration. Has a lot to do with it.
That's right. And of course, the midterms are going to have to play out before then, and that will have a lot to say about how Trump 2.0 fares in those second 2 years. So we'll continue to watch the 2028 races as well as the midterms. We are also still watching whether or not we can find peace between Russia and Ukraine. Vance also spoke about that yesterday. He was pretty optimistic. He said, look, Russia has been a little bit more flexible. They've been willing to be flexible on some of their original demands. Later on that program, though, the Russian foreign minister said, this isn't close. There's still no official meeting between Putin and Zelensky scheduled, and that there's no agreement on issues like security guarantees and the maps. So that's a tough one.
It's a stalemate. It really is.
Well, we had some momentum there, Randy, for about a week, and it seems like that momentum is no longer there. But we'll see. Every day it feels like there's massive news in Trump world. So maybe I think if they can get that meeting on the books, I think it will make. I think they're not going to schedule a meeting unless they think that there will be some movement.
I get the sense Trump is not going to spend too much more political capital on this. He's backed off a little bit late last week. He said, no, you know what? I'm not going to be a part of a tripartite meeting. They'll have to meet, and then we'll see what happens. Yeah.
We will see what happens. All right, Trump is also threatening to expand his crime crackdown to more cities, including Baltimore and Chicago. Of course, the mayors there aren't too happy. And of course, there is some question about his authority as massive authority in D.C., less authority in those cities. But I think that just started to really play out over the weekend, and we'll see some more action this week on that. Also, good news, Tom Homan, the immigration czar, told News Nation that he envisions deployment of 1,700 troops across 19 different states to try to be a force multiplier for ICE. So the record on the border is pretty good.
It's great. And you know what? This self-deportation thing has really taken off. There's been, 1.5 million, I think, that have self-deported. So there's been a lot of positives on that immigration front. That, in a weird way, that's now maybe going to be off the list in terms of an ICE campaign issue.
Well, I mean, it is, but at the same time, we saw the truck driver, right? As far as the border being closed, that's great, but we have all of the people here who flooded over in the Biden administration, and something has to be done there. We've also got more redistricting news that has been heating up. Apparently, California is going to put the ballot measure on. They have to actually send it to the voters. They could pick up 5 seats with Texas map. We could pick up 5 seats, but Democrats are saying we're going to expand this redistricting effort coast to coast and calling on everyone to do their part.
All right. Hey, I feel like doing a little woke busting.
Let's go.
Let's do some woke busting when we come back on Wake Up Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump?
If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call?
All right, it's that time when we do some woke busting. You may have thought that with the election in November that, it was all done and we were going to finally have some common sense, throw out the DEI, gone with the CRT. Well, we've been talking about Cracker Barrel. I'll get to that in a minute, a funny animated meme that I saw. We'll play some of that in a minute. But listen to this one out of Colorado.
If they are interacting with a customer and the customer says, this is my preferred name and these are my preferred pronouns, this is the way I want to be addressed, there is a legal obligation to do that. They're compelled to use those pronouns and those surnames under Colorado's law. That's compelled speech, and the real kicker is there are criminal penalties for it. You can have prison time, jail time for up to 4 months if you don't abide by this.
What's going on?
That is an expert talking about a Colorado law where there is compulsory speech. This reminds me of I think it was Proposition C or some law in Canada that propelled Jordan Peterson to fame because he fought it. I mean, he said, it's one thing to say what you can't say, right? You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, they're hate, but to compel people to say something, and I don't have any reason to believe that this isn't true, but if it's true, we still have woke busting to do. Woke is still with us, Stephanie.
Oh, it is.
I can't believe
Alive
that.
and well.
So what would happen if there were, let's just say, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Missouri turns blue. I mean, just theoretically. And there was a law passed that said that you had to use someone's preferred pronouns, and you didn't want to do that, but the boss told you had to. Like, say, the boss of the radio station said if someone comes in and, a guest, and they say, well, I want to be called they, them, or I want to call he, whatever, and how would you fight that as an attorney? That's a constitutional issue, isn't it?
I mean, I guess I don't really care what you want to be called. I'll just try to use your name, I think. I mean, I have a hard time saying they, them. That one's hard for me. I would make that mistake.
I would think, knowing you being very precise and logical, that's not logical, right? How can one entity be both at the same time?
Yeah, grammatically, it's difficult for me. Yeah.
You need to preface this whole story with saying this is a Colorado law
That's right,
from the
it's
same
Colorado.
state that brought you requiring the baker to bake the cake for the gay couple.
Touche. You said it. Okay, and I knew it wasn't going to be that big of a deal because what do you expect out of Colorado? That's just the way they roll, right? They're
fair.
bluer than blue.
But I mean, it is interesting because I do think there's been a shift because I got like a solicitation, from just a random, I don't know, I think they blasted it out to a whole bunch of people and they're like, let's work together. And it was political in nature. And then it had the pronouns in the email. And I thought, have you done your research? And I was like, if you want to work with me and you did, half a second of Googling, you would probably know that is not a plus in my book for the pronouns in the emails. Like, not that I care what you want to be, but like, just, I thought we were past that, right?
Yeah,
I thought we were, if your name is Fred on your email, I'm going to call you a he. If it's Sally, I'm going to call you a she, and I guess you can correct me. It'd be weird to have a he, Sally, but, the pronouns in the emails when your name is clearly a man name, get over yourself.
And I have to tell you, I do, and forgive me for those of you who may do business with me and your company requires you to have that he, her, she, them, I, we,
preferred pronoun,
amoeba, paramecium. When I see that at the bottom of your signature, I have a bias. I automatically have a bias. And if I have an alternative, I'm probably looking very closely at that alternative.
I'd like to get Drake's take on it. Drake, does this faze you at all when people want their preferred pronouns out there?
Personally, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I'm also the same person that will get, a tramp stamp of a Texas horn upside down. I don't care what people think. I've always been very weary of it, I'd say. It's weird. It's just weird. And it's not like them having the pronouns or not is going to make me think, oh, they're not, wait, they weren't weird until I saw their pronouns. No, they've been weird from the beginning.
And honestly, I almost would prefer to have the pronouns than the weird quote at the bottom, like the motivational quote, like the "make today a great day" or whatever. Like, just put your contact info in there, and that's really all I need to know. I need to know how to get a hold of you. You don't need to give me an inspirational quote. I don't need to know anything else about you. I don't need a land acknowledgement. Just your phone number and your email.
We know John 3:16. You don't have to put it at the bottom of every email.
I can't. That is too much.
But from a biblical perspective, we've been studying. They've been doing a series based on Genesis at church, and I just go back to the good book, and just from basic instinct that I think we all know. I mean, look, if someone wants to be aberrant and wants to do something that's sort of outside the norm and weird and different, that God love you, whatever you want to do. But I think we all know there are women and there are men. God created it that way, It's just to make a big deal out of it in statute. And if I don't recognize that somehow I'm a criminal, it's almost laughable. And it would almost be worth spending 4 months in jail just to make the point. I don't know. I've got to think that through. Well, in other woke news, I thought you might get a kick out of this. If you haven't seen the memes going around with the Cracker Barrel, it's been pretty funny. There's been a lot of nice fertile ground there. Someone, I guess it was AI, came up with this cutie.
The Nike used a man in leggings to sell women's clothes. They must think we're fools. Go woke, go broke. That's what they say. Try selling folks what they don't want. You'll find there's hell to pay. If you ask me, you should keep your politics to yourself, and we'll both have a better day. Greedy banks lecturing me about DEI. Are they for real? And some whack jobs named Ben and Jerry want me to boycott Israel. It's enough to make you reach for a beer, but Bud's woke too. Next they'll call it the Queen of Beers. Guess this Bud ain't for you. Go woke, go broke. Different company, different days.
Well, that's and all the while this is playing, the traditional guy in the rocker by the Cracker Barrel is animated.
Pawpaw. I don't know if he has a name, but I was like, Pawpaw's a good name. Like, they took Pawpaw and the barrel away from Cracker Barrel. His overalls. One of the better ones your daughter sent to me, Randy, and it was, and this was gold because, they're aligned, right? Yeah. And so Silver Dollar City put out a new logo that just looks like the new Cracker Barrel logo and had that. And it's like, if you took like the country, the costumes and the barrels and the wood and the, kitschy
all the
stuff
handmade knives and the leather goods.
Silver Dollar City, it wouldn't be Silver Dollar City.
You're right.
Same for Cracker Barrel. Their stock tanked last week. I mean, I wonder if they can recover, but folks are real mad. And I saw folks were going in on Sunday morning when it's usually real busy at certain locations and taking photos, and it wasn't super busy, and it looks like folks are pretty mad about it.
I have a producer friend at the station that Chris Arps and Tim Jones broadcast from. And he's an old-time producer, and was in the restaurant biz. And he says, over the years, I've gone to Cracker Barrel, and he says, we noticed over the past couple of years, he and his wife, that the food quality and things had changed, and they asked the servers about that, and they were transparent. They said, we've noticed that. We've heard from customers. Corporate didn't ask us about feedback, which I found very interesting. It sounds like a colossal, if that's true, that sounds like a colossal, epic management error. I mean, I think someone's going to get fired over this marketing thing. I mean, I don't know how they couldn't be. And someone said it's the beauty of the Waffle House, right? Like, don't change anything ever, 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 ever. And Waffle House hasn't changed anything in however long they've been around.
Firefighter Al texts us and says the name of the Cracker Barrel guy is Uncle Herschel.
Oh,
Uncle
really?
Herschel.
Oh,
there's no better.
He has an actual name, apparently.
Uncle Herschel, and they just eliminated him.
Kicked him to the curb.
So sad.
I just, in this day of feedback and instant, do you want to make a comment? Will you give us stars? And then if you go and you give a star, would you like to post something about that? You get on and on. When everyone is so feedback sensitive in the business world, I can't believe that they didn't hear some ripplings of this and then pull the plug on it right away. unless they spent like $50 gazillion and it's like, oh, we're already in, we're committed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because the hallmark of a good restaurant is good food. Like, I don't really care what your logo is. I mean, in this instance, but I mean, if you couple, not as great food with also woke leadership, I think that's gonna put you in trouble. I think if you can get by a bad logo if you have really good food.
There's something really, this story, the Bud story, and I feel sorry for people caught in the middle that work at these places, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't make the decisions, but they have to suffer the consequences. Patrons, okay, you go there and you have one bad experience or you're really ticked off and it just doesn't feel the same, so you go somewhere else. That's fine. You haven't really, but you really, there's some suffering, if you work at one of these places, you have nothing to do with the decision. However, on the other hand, I think it's a testament to the market. Markets work.
Well, and that story was really interesting, like from Bud Light to maybe a little bit of Target, is Democrats have always been really, really good about boycotting, about voting with their feet, about supporting businesses that align with their principles, and conservatives have always kind of not done that. We've always kind of been like, whatever, I'm still going to shop here. We just haven't been voting as a block with our feet, and I think that we kind of woke up.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, and you saw I am not going to let them cram this down my throat. I am going to make different choices in ways that I can with my dollars to support people who either stay out of it, right, and who just do food or do drink, and or with people who align with me. And you've seen the rise too of from all of the conservative podcasters and YouTubers and folks who have their own coffee and they have their own this and
right.
they all have conservative names and they all and there's a huge market for, and there's a website where you can even go and find like conservative supported products or something.
And there's a bank that's been started by a country western singer
and there's a Trump phone.
Ben Carson, and they've gotten together with a bank, and they're not going to debank you is what they've said, right? Well, okay, there's something to be said for that. Well, you've heard of Ozempic face. There's a couple other body parts that you might be affected by if you get that shot. When we come back, we'll talk about that on Make Missouri Healthy.
This is
we all know that weight and its management and not managing it, the consequences of that are a big problem in America. We talk about that a lot, and how to manage weight and how to preserve body composition. Whether you're crash dieting and limiting your calories to ridiculously low amounts, maybe you're sort of focusing on one nutrient group than another. There's always that downside to that rapid weight loss. Well, in the case of the GLP-1s on Make Missouri Healthy Again, I want to remind you, dentists are now warning that one of the downsides that might be emerging from the use of things like Ozempic and, the weight loss version named Wegovy, and Mounjaro, the weight loss version named Zepbound, tirzepatide is the generic, is Ozempic teeth.
Ozempic teeth. I haven't heard this one before.
It turns out that can lead to dry mouth, and if you don't have good salivation going on, like Drake's when he at the girls' volleyball game or at the rodeo because you brought him next to some beautiful girls. Right?
Yeah, he was definitely drooling.
I saw that video. Or that, I guess it was a still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that affects the salivary glands, the GLP-1s. So you don't have moist mouth, you have dry mouth. And that leads to then a riper environment for bacteria and for enamel erosion and gum disease. And so there's a lot of problems. And you can drink less water because you're not as thirsty. You may have nutrient deficiencies because you just can't eat as much. There are some people that they're just not eating very much. And I'm worried about their nutrition. I mean, their basic nutrition. Generally in America, we don't worry about that. I mean, you're getting more than enough calories, vitamins, plus, minus, whatever. But I mean, if you're eating a reasonably balanced diet, but you start just restricting this because that's what these things do in large part. And the other thing is, a lot of out there, and one of the most common side effects I see, we hear about nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, those kind of things. But reflux is a huge problem because it slows emptying from the stomach. That's why you feel fuller quicker. So then you might start to get, especially if you're overweight, which is why you're on the stuff, that's a risk factor for, reflux. And you may not even know it, but at night you may be acidifying your teeth, which is eroding the enamel. So scientists are saying, you got to be careful about it. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. By the way, you may have slower healing after dental procedures. You may have gum erosion as well. So you got to be careful about that.
I don't think that was a question on my dental, thing. When they ask you, are they going to have to start asking you when you show up, are you on a weight loss drug? That's not part of their normal questioning.
That's the thing. I mean, we know that some of the drugs, for instance, for many of the drugs for osteoporosis can cause a particular and relatively unusual, but a particular problem with a problem called osteonecrosis of the jaw, where your tooth inserts into the jaw. And that can be a problem. Dentists are very aware of that when they do dental work on you, and they ask about that kind of stuff. We talk about it before we give you those meds as well. But I'm just saying you got to be careful about this. So you want to make sure and keep yourself hydrated. Some people are suggesting the sugar-free gums, but the problem with that is that's not good for your gut bacteria. So then you're fighting one problem with another, and it's something I just wanted you all to be aware of and remind you that if you can do this, we have several patients who have decided not to do it. They're working with us to just in a sensible way lose weight slowly and not suffer some of the other side effects. But staying hydrated, some sugar-free gum is fine if you want to do that. Maybe a diabetic lozenge or something to keep things going in the mouth. You can buy salivary replacements and things that help because a lot of older folks get dry mouth from some urinary incontinence meds too.
Werther's, right? Is that why old people always have Werther's?
Yeah, and I guess I didn't get much chance to talk about
below the belt issues.
Ozempic butt. But we'll do that for another time because it's real. It's real. Scott Pond joins us at 7:10. Stay tuned.
are here and who are not documented are not eligible to vote. But
they're not eligible to vote, but they do go in the congressional apportionment. That's why California has so many more seats, is because they count illegal aliens. So even though they don't vote, well, some of them actually do vote, but hopefully most of them don't. They end up getting congressional representation that ought by right go to American citizens.
I know
That's J.D. Vance talking about this redistricting epidemic sweeping the nation. Republicans mid-census saying, hey, we just want to level the playing field because it is so unfair. Let's see what Scott Vaughn has to tell us about the latest in Missouri, maybe or maybe not redistricting, as he joins us this morning on Wake Up Missouri. Scott, what do you say? Is anything going to happen or not? It's been eerily quiet out of the governor's mansion.
I'm tired of these rhinos. I mean, Eric Burleson has found millions of illegal aliens, and I think they should all count for the Springfield census. I don't know why these rhinos don't step up and do the right thing for this country. Randy, I've been very disappointed. Mike Kehoe, Cindy O'Loughlin, John Pedersen, they have not responded to my call for a 9-0 Republican map. If we're going to get stupid, let's just get stupid. There will be something happen. Look, I'll tell you what. I have seen Mike Kehoe ticked off. It is not where you want to be in life. Now, when I was on here, when this first started breaking, I said this is a Washington thing done by Washington people for Washington people. Missourians are the scum under their boots. They're as embarrassed of us. The Washington Republicans are as embarrassed of Missouri Republicans as Cracker Barrel's CEO is of Cracker Barrel's customers. They detest us. They loathe us. We are just simply functionaries meant to do what they're told. And I was told, no, that's not it. Donald Trump announced a special session. He didn't even let Mike Kehoe do it. Now, you want to see it? This is going to happen. They're going to draw some squirrely map to get to 7-1. But you want to see how it doesn't happen? You take Mike Kehoe off. Mike Kehoe's the bull of the woods. I would not mess with him. Mike Kehoe has the guts to tell someone no, even a Washington Republican. It'll make the first time anybody in Missouri has ever done it. But he's got the guts to do it. And you want to see this is going to happen. This is going to start September 8th. The Senate will pass it out that week. It'll be PQ, the free and fair debate of the Missouri Senate will be ended for purely partisan Washington reasons. The next week, the House will come and do it. It'll be drawn in Washington by Washington folks for Washington folks. The only way this doesn't happen, you take off Mike Kehoe, that ain't where you want to be in life.
I think it's interesting that this story out of the Kansas City Star says that the Chamber of Commerce there, the Civic Council, oppose any effort to divide the Kansas City region, including a map that, quote, would dismantle, close quote, the 5th district. I mean, do you think Mike Kehoe's feeling some pushback from KC?
No. I think the Chambers of Commerce at all levels were reliably Republican entities. And as the Republicans did a lot of the common sense business stuff, and now they're, everybody wants an accomplishment. They're doing goofier and goofier things, and the chambers are becoming more and more bipartisan. Plus, let's be honest, the leaders of these corporations, I mean, just because Trump won and they're pretending they're not woke, a lot of that's pretending. And it is cyclical up and down these corporations. So while the CEO may scrub their Twitter account, it's been 20 years of this people that are straight, white, heterosexual Christian males are the problem and evil and must be eradicated from society for all the evil that people like Randy Tobler have done. That culture still exists. And it is folks that do not like your everyday Republicans. They hate me. They hate people like me. The Washington Republicans hate people like me far more than these skunk striped Starbucks drinking Prius driving liberal. Hate me. And they hate you, Randy. Hate you.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
The only time they'll tolerate you is when you're kissing their boots. They don't wear boots. When you're kissing their open-toed sandals like some weirdos wear, that's the only time they can tolerate you. The only time they'll share the same air with you is if you're licking their Birkenstocks.
Yeah. There's Scott Vaughn telling us what he really feels today on Wake Up Missouri.
I'm going to agree to disagree with you. I think right now Washington, D.C. loves Missouri, and that has played out in all of the Missourians that have...
Stephanie, who announced the special session? Was it the Missouri governor? Who did that?
There hasn't been an announcement yet.
Donald Trump said Missouri's in for a 7-1 map.
John Sauer, Will Scharf, Andrew Bailey, Missouri or DC loves Missouri.
Well, Bailey's
Jesus.
not out there yet. I don't know who the other two are.
Jesus
Washington people,
Osete?
but Bailey's not there yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us. All right. Okay. Moving on for just a moment. You had the
Stephanie, it's you're broadcasting from Columbia, not the District of Columbia. You got to remember that.
We can agree to disagree. I think there has been a shift in Washington, D.C. I think they love Missouri. And,
you're serious. I'm sorry. My apologies.
All right. We're working on it, Scott. The more Missourians we can put in D.C., I think the better.
I think we should build a wall on the border, right there on the river, the Mississippi River. Build it on the west side of the river to keep them people out of here.
Keep the East Coast folks out. All right. Let's talk about Catherine Hanaway. You had the opportunity on your show to interview her, one of her first sit-down interviews. What were your takeaways from that interview?
Very Mike Kehoe pick. He picked one of the 1 or 2, 3 people that can do the job on day one. She will walk in there on the 8th, totally prepared to do this job. Catherine Hanaway, it was fun to remind people who she is. I find people in government and politics, especially these high elected positions, success is something that you're successful on the radio. It is no success. You're a very successful attorney. You're a successful alderwoman. You're a successful mother. Success is usually something that ripples through people's lives. Very seldom is somebody just good at politics. You normally, like John Patterson, a very talented guy. Cindy O'Loughlin, a talented person. He's a surgeon. He's a successful person overall. She's a successful businesswoman. Usually success replicates. And Catherine Hanaway was the first woman to be Speaker of the House of Representatives. She's the woman that every Republican that's in office today stands on her shoulders in one way or the other. Very successful U.S. attorney. She ran one of the biggest law firms in the world. Catherine Hanaway is someone that is a winner. She's successful. What is the number one word you would use to describe Mike Kehoe? He's a winner. And he picked a winner to be Attorney General. And I think that her competence and her confidence, it's the fine line of arrogance and confidence. She's confident. She's done big things. And I think she can handle this job, not just handle it on day one. And it was a very, very Mike Kehoe thing to do, to pick the most competent person who could do the job right away to be his pick for Attorney General. I'm not surprised, and I think she'll do a very good job.
Scott, I've had some incoming. We've had some incoming on the text line. I've had it personally from people who are directly affected by this Grain Belt Express deal. And they, despite her recusal from that, which is fine, recognizing and managing a conflict of interest is fine, they just don't trust that the people that may have been under Bailey's watch working that investigation are going to be as aggressive when they know who signs their paycheck, gives them a raise, and maybe gives them a reference someday if they want to move to D.C. and be a deputy attorney general.
I think that's very fair. Look, I mean, you know me. I've never said the words, hey, you should trust the government. The one thing I will say is she has a track record of being, you ask who you want, there's no track record of her lying or deceiving people. She said it to me, that the Grain Belt case will proceed on. She will not be involved. Here's the truth, is Catherine Hanaway, no matter what you think of her, is a very brilliant woman. What is the first and best way to get herself off to a bad start? It would be for a St. Louis lawyer. And I know she's from Clarksville, Nebraska, but it would be for a St. Louis lawyer to try to stop an initiative that our Montgomery County war hero was working on to help rural Missourians in property rights. Yeah. That would be the surest way for her to get a primary. I think it's not in her interest to get in the way here. Now, I will say this, even folks in the AGs, I'll tell you, they're not totally sure how good of a case, what the chances were of success here was. But I think, she has no reason to get in the way of it. And if she does, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I respect Catherine Hanaway. I like her. I have actually known her 25 years. I think I smoked my first cigar ever in my life with her. But if she comes out and does things, or that office all of a sudden gets incompetent on this Grain Belt case, your simple hillbilly friend will be the first one to say, hey, something's going on here. Look at here. Something's not right. They were full steam ahead, and now sometime around September 8th, they pulled back. She knows there's eyes on her. There's eyes on her that even her people that would support her. This is the best way. You identified it. The best way for her to lose support instantly. In the history of mankind, has anybody in Montgomery County ever said, you know what we need here on this? We need a St. Louis lawyer on this. No. And if this case, the sad part and the tricky part is, this is not the greatest case, Andrew Bailey filed some cases, frankly, took some courage, that weren't just gimme putts, easy cases. He filed some ambitious cases. This is one of them. If it's not successful, she's going to have to have a very good reason why. Yeah. And I think she's smart enough to know that.
Yep. I think well said. And there's no doubt it is that big 60,000-pound gorilla in the corner. We'll have to see how she handles it.
Scott, all the special session and veto session stuff with redistricting notwithstanding, with all the money the state has spent on education and, disaster relief, how tough a budget battle is it going to be when they come back in January?
Well, I think you're going to have to just see how the budget numbers go. As you know, John, that fourth quarter number isn't as big as it used to be. It's not as important as it used to be, but it's still the telling number about where maybe not even institutionally, but where Missourians think the economy is. Do you buy that remote control car for your son, or do you get that big one, the XL model, for Christmas? I think those are decisions that are made in large part on market confidence. So I think it's too early to say. There's no question it's going to be harder to do the budget this year. You're going to have less money. The sugar rush of the ARPA money's over. But you got to remember, John, yes, the state spent money they had on ARPA. The state really rigged their books so they could show to justify tax cuts. Now that's coming home. But you also, drive down I-70 and you're going to see a ton of construction. That is money that's rippling through the economy in Missouri. And there's jobs created and materials bought. So some of that ARPA money is still producing. But, yes, it's going to be tighter. I don't think we're going to know how tight until February 1st when that fourth quarter budget numbers come out.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. And finally, we need to, before we let you go, Scott, your thoughts about Ken Waller, really tragic event of this weekend.
Known Ken Waller a long time. It hit me. I got a phone call about 5 a.m., and it was just a gut punch. Ken Waller's a great guy. Ken Waller was always a happy warrior, always smiling. Ken Waller cared about people. He had a heart for people. When I think of a public servant, whether it was at the county level in Jefferson County or at the State House, he broke his story about running for Senate on my show, and he was so excited. He was such a happy warrior. He did, and it wasn't malicious. He did not have a beef with Jim Avery. He just wanted to serve in the state Senate. And he was excited about getting his campaign underway, and his heart was just too dadgum big, and it gave out on him. He's a great man. There's a lot of folks that would be kind of missed. We'd all say nice things. Ken Waller's a man that'll be truly missed in the state capitol.
All right. Great tribute there by Scott Vaughn, our guest, every Monday morning here on Wake Up Missouri. Hey, Scott, thanks for your input, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. There he is. When we come back, a little bit more about one that we talk about all the time in the political realm, but I want to talk about her a little bit differently, and that's Cindy O'Loughlin. When we come back on Wake Up Missouri, 8:08, we talk with an expert, Kurt Jefferson, about the Ukraine-Russia quagmire. It is that. Stay tuned.
You're listening
Back to Wake Up Missouri. You know, I don't make it a habit. We don't make it a habit of really getting too much into people's personal lives. And I know many of you face challenges and either personal suffering or suffering from those around you, family, friends, colleagues. But I've been following, and many of you probably have too, just the unbelievable circumstance that befell Cindy O'Loughlin and her family, her granddaughter in particular, who was involved in a drunk driver accident down in Texas last week sometime. And Cindy's been asking for prayers on her Facebook page. She's one of the most prolific social media people. You know, I imagine Cindy is something over 50. Is that fair to say? But yet she's so adept at that, Stephanie Bell. She's so good at social media.
She's very good.
I'm very humbled by that because I'm a little over 50, and I don't know. She's just a master of that. She does a great job. But I've been following that. She's been asking for prayers. And I got to thinking about something in the midst of this, following the story and very slow recovery. Her granddaughter suffered a severe brain injury and was well enough to, had enough recovery, and they could get her off the ventilator and get her to Barnes Hospital, I think, in St. Louis, somewhere down there at the WashU complex. In the midst of all of this, struggle and challenge and stress, I found it amazing, and this is what I want to talk about. And I want you to think about the big people in your life. Cindy O'Loughlin is one of those people in my life, and maybe those of you who know her, she's just a big person. And by that I mean someone who's selfless, thinking of others at all times. Here on Saturday, when they're trying to work with the insurance companies and getting everything coordinated to make a big transfer of a critically ill patient to home to get some family and, friend support, she makes a comment about the officer, Craig Barnhart. Well, I'll read the post. Craig Barnhart was the officer on the scene of Ella's accident. I'm sure he has a tough job, plenty to do, but he has called Brian every day to check on Ella. This extra kindness at a time of devastation has meant the world to Brian. And I want to thank him and remind everyone that law enforcement is not only necessary for a civil society, but they're also at times angels for people in distress. Now, that's a big person. When you want to withdraw into yourself because of your problems, which is natural, to take the time to recognize others and to show gratitude like that, that's a big person. I like being around big people, don't you, Drake?
100%.
Isn't that great? And you know those people in your life, right, Stephanie? Big people. And I just want to really give a shout out and urge all of you to pray for her. And for those of in the family, Wake Up family, who we see, when I see things on my friends list and are asking for prayers, I do. I earnestly pray, and I know many of you do too. She has referenced her faith a lot. And I just wanted to give a shout out and hope that Ella has a full recovery. She apparently has a pretty long way to go, but we hope the best for her and her family. And thank you, Cindy, for being a big person. All right. When we come back, I think we probably need to reprise what's going on with some of the immigration stuff this morning, because that's in the news. We'll do that and talk about the opening of school with Brian Hauswirth. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. In case you didn't hear, this Abrego Garcia guy was basically let out of jail by a liberal Democrat-appointed federal judge. ICE picked him up this morning. There was a rally outside. In other illegal immigrant news, the guy that couldn't read road signs made a slow U-turn through a gravel crossway on a median with his 18-wheeler down in Florida with a CDL license, an illegal alien who a week ago killed 3 women who I think they were women in a SUV that ended up running right in and under his trailer. There's 2.6 million signatures on a petition supporting this idiot. And the president has signed an executive order saying they're basically, reviewing the whole thing and changing the rules in terms of now making it a federal law that you can't give a CDL to someone who's an illegal immigrant. States are ignoring that, reportedly. I don't know. This immigration thing is not settled yet. Yeah, the border's tighter. People are self-deporting. ICE is getting some of the bad guys and gals off the street. That's good, but there's still an awful, awful lot of debris that needs to be gotten swept out and thrown out, right? Got to get the debris out. Well, there's some good stuff happening. We call it the beginning of school. That also presents some challenges. Brian Hauswirth joins us now from the Zimmer News Network. And Brian, you were commenting on the Clogpalooza locally in Columbia.
Yeah, and it affects really the entire state, but certainly in mid-Missouri, Randy. And good morning to you. Good morning, Stephanie. Obviously, it's the Missouri State Highway Patrol is alerting people to be prepared for heavy traffic, not just this morning, and there is heavy traffic right now, but all day. It's 70 and 63. That is by far mid-Missouri's busiest interchange all days, and just 100,000 people or so that come through that interchange. It's going to be extra busy today because it is the start of school at Mizzou, Columbia College, and Stevens College, on top of the $405 million plan to rebuild and expand I-70 to 6 lanes between Columbia and Kingdom City. Now, I drove through there every day. This morning at before 5 o'clock in the morning, not much traffic, but any other time it's very, very busy. Plus, you also have a lot of homeless people that are panhandling in the area as well, and people donate to them. So traffic gets tied up. They're urging people to give themselves extra time if they're going to be in that area. And also a reminder, we have people from all over the state. They're going to be coming in for the Mizzou opener on Thursday night. The parking lots, obviously, that day for the home opener are going to open at 2. That is extra early, but it's just the fact that you're going to have so much extra traffic, things like that. I do expect an announcement from Mizzou later this week, probably tomorrow, if not Wednesday at the latest. They normally do this where they will announce the employees will go home at noon and work remotely the rest of the day. They have not done that. I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of Dr. Choi, but I can tell you they have done that before. But this week is going to be very busy. And obviously, if you're in that area, just give yourself extra time and be patient. Be patient.
I know you monitor some of the local social media feeds, and you got a lot of feedback on 93.9 The Eagle and on the Facebook page and on your own Twitter and so forth, Brian, on the air. What are you hearing about the opening of school here and around the state in terms of the cell phone ban? I mean, there's a lot of pushback, security issues, other things,
I haven't had any feedback on our Facebook page about the cell phone ban one way or the other. And I think part of that is, maybe we will at some point. I've not certainly seen it or heard it. I think part of it is the fact that it is a state law. It was bipartisan. Kathy Steinhoff here in mid-Missouri, a Democrat, pushed it, but it was pushed by a number of Republicans as well. And I think people realize that most our listeners certainly read the news and listen. They're aware it's a state law. So the districts, quite frankly, are simply enforcing the law that the state put on them, and they, quite frankly, can tell the people that are if they are complaining, look, this is a state law. I've not heard anybody say that. I have not heard any concerns about security at this point. What I have heard from people is just the traffic concerns, specifically the Columbia area with all the traffic and the buses, but they're not complaining. It's just I'm hearing about 70 and 63. I'm hearing about people on I-70. The biggest complaint I've been hearing from people, Randy, is the 63 between Grindstone in the interstate. That is just a mess, and I'm really concerned about that for football. But that's on top of the schools. That's not really school specific. But I think I talked to Michelle Baumstark twice last week.
Yeah.
Spokeswoman at CPS, fourth largest district in Missouri. Springfield, by far, by the way, the largest in the state. And it went really smooth the first day. They were out. Superintendent Klein was there. Didn't really hear any issues at all. No major concerns. They have a new bus company. Those are brand new buses. You're seeing DS bus lines. Mm-hmm. So not saying everything's perfect, but I'm saying in terms of a first week, it's about as smooth as you can get in mid-Missouri outside of all this traffic and stuff.
All right, a lot of critical news, and you can always count on Brian Hauswirth to bring that to you. Now, there is some very, 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 very probably among the most priority critical news that we've discussed in a long time.
Sell liberal insanity, and you'll see that business plan don't pay. Best Foods don't want your opinions on Trump. Just want mayo for my sandwich, that okay? Why do brands insist on committing suicide? Cracker Barrel, you could left me on the logo and just let it ride. Hey, Wall Street, God, politics, and sex ain't your business. So do me a favor and stay the heck out. All together now. Go broke. That's what they say.
All right, now Brian.
Yes, sir.
You are known to have frequented some of the breakfast establishments around the area
and dinner.
Wherever
First
you are.
guy we thought of when the story broke.
There's an all points bulletin that goes out if he's visiting his mother in St. Louis, if he's down in Springfield, if he's wherever Brian Hauswirth goes.
Yes.
All points bulletin go out to the breakfast establishments.
Or home cooking, but yes.
And what about now? Do you have an opinion on Cracker Barrel? Have you noticed any change in their food over the last?
Their food has changed, and I want to point out I was actually there last night, the one in Columbia. I was. And
so you're not boycotting with the rest of us?
He's going to single-handedly resurrect the Cracker Barrel name.
I did. I had a long. You both saw me in here yesterday, so I was a little tired, but I was a little tired, needing some home cooking. I think one thing we should emphasize because people are upset. They are. There wasn't a lot of people in there last night, but I want to make one thing very clear. The employees and the managers at the Columbia location, we have a lot of people that eat at the Springfield and Branson location. They had nothing to do with this.
We talked about that. I mean, that's like with the Bud.
Yeah,
the drivers, the bottlers, they got caught in the crossfire of this. Yeah, and they said we've heard reports that no one asked the people, the patron-facing employees from management what kind of feedback they were getting.
Exactly. Right? And what they did, and Randy, to answer your questions, I know you guys got to move on, but the menu change, that Uncle Herschel is the name of the guy that was on the Uncle Herschel. Uncle Herschel came off the menu about 6 months ago, and I was upset about it. I didn't consider it woke, but I love the Uncle Herschel pancake
Did you
breakfast.
File a complaint?
No, but
I didn't hear a news report on that,
I didn't,
Brian.
but I let them know. I want Uncle Herschel.
Journalistic malpractice. You didn't report on that.
Yeah,
That's censorship.
I should have. But no, they've changed the menu, and I did notice last night the menu looks completely different. The logo is changed, and but there were people in there. But on a Sunday evening, it normally is more crowded. But keep in mind, it could be a variety of things. Traffic's heavy. But I definitely have heard some frustration. But people have strong opinions one way or the other. The signs change. The menu, they've changed the menu quite a bit as well.
Did you see this deal? Robbie Starbuck, who's been at the point of the spear. Thank you. But Brian's leaving here before we start talking. Politics. Robbie Starbuck is prolific on the Twitter thing, and he's a guy that's really been very disruptive in this field of exposing these companies for the deep DEI disasters they are. And I was listening to his little expose on this the other day. He said at Cracker Barrel headquarters they're in the most red of red counties in Tennessee, their headquarters, and somewhere in their lobby or out in the entryway, allegedly they have a big rocking chair that has rainbow on it, and they're one of the biggest sponsors of the Pride Parade in Nashville and so forth. I don't know if that's true, but I mean Starbucks been pretty accurate with these things, whether it was Bud or Target or whatever. So I don't know, but maybe it's like Scott Fawn was saying, a lot of these CEOs and a lot of the boards and the management, they give wink, wink to the whole get the DEI cleared out, get the CRT cleared out. Let's just do what we do well and stop all of the political grandstanding. So I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's at least according to one person who's been pretty active in this area, Robbie Starbuck. I don't know. John, have you heard anything about that?
I have not.
And again, a company has every right to sponsor what they want to sponsor, but I think patrons have every right to,
vote with their feet,
patronize whoever they want to patronize. Right?
Good point.
And I don't know. We'll do a little more research on that. John, what do you have when you're coming back?
How about dope from the sky?
Wow. That coming back on Wake Up Missouri, 573-874-9390.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
County, Florida, a drone crashed into a home around 1:30 in the morning recently. Homeowners retrieved the drone from the backyard before the owner, Jason Brooks, knocked on their front door, at which point they promptly called the cops. He said he was just flying his drone, and I believe it crashed in this area, and I'm going into your backyard to try to find my drone. Sheriff showed up and said the homeowner found a cloth bag attached to the drone with 4 other bags inside. 3 of the bags contained fentanyl powder. The other one was methamphetamine, according to the sheriff. And he said each bag has a person's name written on it. And when deputies arrived, they found Brooks outside and said Brooks is a 15-time convicted felon who's now been charged with possession with intent to sell or deliver and is being held without bond.
Oh, no. My goodness. The dark side of technology, huh?
I guess.
Did you see where they were proposing? Well, I think it was in some, speaking of drones, was it a Texas school district? Helene pointed out to me, she saw a story where drones are on standby in schools. Like, I can picture the drones like maybe on the principal's office, and they can be activated in no time should there be some kind of a safety event. And they're thinking of how can we incorporate drones for immediate, I don't know, kind of drone. Maybe a drone can harass a shooter and get in their face and at least
presumably with real-time TV camera on board. Yeah.
Yeah, and distract them if nothing else.
Huh.
I remember when we took some of that training, we brought that into the hospital for employees and for everyone to be trained in how to react should there be that. The first thing that we were taught, and I forget the name of that. Our law enforcement community would mean, but there's a name for the training that leaders and trainers can then train employees and get trained by law enforcement on how to deal with this kind of an incident. The first thing they taught us was like just throw stuff. If someone's coming down the hall and they're armed or whatever, just throw anything. Throw a desk, throw a chair. Just get in their face. Which I hadn't thought of. It makes a lot of sense, I guess, if you have a chance.
We had an incident a number of years ago. I was sitting in a classroom and there was a visitor and someone noticed, it was during class, someone noticed he was armed.
Ooh.
And
wow.
We didn't understand that he was an off-duty police officer, but that was unknown to those of us sitting around him. And he almost got taken out by a con law book because the girl sitting next to me, I was not in that class, but we were communicating with people in that class. And I was like, well, your con law book's pretty big. I say, stand up and just slam it down on his head. And then we don't have to worry. Now it all sorted itself out. But yeah, throwing things. And then you think about the shooter that we just talked about where the folks in the building, you saw the pictures of them barricading their floor, and so that's another, I know.
That was in New York City.
Yeah. And I know like in schools, they teach the kids that like to push everything you can up against the door to try to keep them out of your room. So yeah, there are different tactics.
Yeah. It's worth having those kind of conversations at the workplace or whatever. What would you do? Where is your escape route? Where is there a safe harbor if there is one?
There's a lot of and you could talk to. I know the school districts in mid-Missouri work very closely with law enforcement agencies on the. Gosh, what do they call it? I think they call it ALICE training, where it's alert. And I can't remember what the abbreviation stands for, but that training's available out there. Talk to your local law enforcement, and they'll point you in the right direction to a contractor or somebody.
Yeah. You're right. It's sad to me, though. I mean, I'm glad we're having these discussions, John, and it's good that there's resources. Stephanie, you were thinking about the book and the taking stuff. Isn't it a shame that we're distracted and having to think that way? I mean, I grew up in a time when it wasn't on anyone's mind, and maybe I think one of the downsides of the 24/7 news cycle is that these things get publicized. Crazy people, it probably plants a seed with some copycat type folks, or at least people that are susceptible to those kind of thoughts. And they're like, oh, that sounds like a good thought. I can get my name on the headlines, And it's just sad to me that that's the time we live in. But I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, preparedness is important, whether you're talking weather preparedness or shooter preparedness or whatever. And I think, it's not something you want to do. You don't want to write your will and your trust, but it's something that needs to be done, right? And so I hate it when we get the announcement, oh, the school's having its, shooter drill training today, but the kids are well aware and properly prepared to protect themselves, and it's important for the teachers too. So it's
well, look
kind
at
of
the time of day we all get to work.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I've been confronted in the parking lot, not recently.
Really?
By a guy who presumably wanted a cigarette at 3:30 in the morning.
Presumably, just had to have that cigarette fix at 3:30 in the morning. Holy cow!
Sorry, John, I won't bother you in the mornings anymore.
Not that kind of cigarette.
That is rich. We had a listener, Shelley, asked a question about our company, about our discussion about companies and their politicization and being out there with their thoughts. She says, would you rather know and being transparent so you can punish them, basically, or would you rather not know and possibly be supporting companies to support issues you wouldn't want to know? I don't know. It's a good thought. I think I'd rather know. I don't want to support them. Don't want to support them. But that's mine. When we come back, Professor Kurt Jefferson on Ukraine, Russia.
Frankly, President Trump has done more to apply pressure and to apply economic leverage to the Russians, certainly than Joe Biden did for 3.5 years when he did nothing but talk, but do nothing to bring the killing to a stop. So you ask me what I'm enraged by. What I'm enraged by is the continuation of the war.
I think we're all enraged by decimation in America's military supplies, the ongoing quagmire. Now there's no momentum when there was momentum in Ukraine and Russia. We're going to be talking about that in just a minute with our guest, Professor Kurt Jefferson. But I wanted to give you an alert. We just got an email from MU that if you're planning on attending the game Thursday, you might want to, you'll be interested in this, but especially if you're an MU employee, they're asking Stephanie for on Thursday, August 28th, there's a 6:30 p.m. Mizzou football game. That's their opening game. And they're asking all faculty, staff, and student who park on campus and plan to remain on campus after 2 p.m. that they may be asked to park in other locations, right?
And I think they're going to allow non-public facing employees to work remotely.
Maybe, yeah. So there'll be some changes. So if you work at Mizzou, of course, the largest employer in the area, you want to pay attention to the email and adjust, because it's going to be interesting. If you want to know about the Tiger Tailgate that Zimmer Communications, along with many, many sponsors, provides, that'll be there Thursday. I'll be out there hanging out along with many of the Zimmer family here from the World Headquarters Studios and operations.
And this year, we're going to open up a half hour earlier.
Oh, really?
Yep. So we'll be there 2.5 hours before kickoff.
I'll have to tell my office staff to change some appointments. All right. But we'll be out there hanging out. So I hope you can join us. Learn more on 939theeagle.com. Kurt Jefferson joins us now. Legendary professor when he was here at Westminster College, and legendary at Spalding University, where he presides as a professor of global leadership. Also a best-selling author on the Amazon list with his recent book, The Wars of Israel, and several other things that he's written. Kurt, it's great to touch base with you. I hope you have some solution about Ukraine and Russia, because it sounds like even the great Donald Trump may not have one.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Good to talk with you all from the Bluegrass State this morning. And I'm not sure I have a solution, but have a few thoughts.
All right. So there was great excitement, and Stephanie and I were talking about it. John, we were all trying to scratch our heads. It seemed like, wow, he had the meeting with Putin and the meeting with Zelensky. When was the last time? Has there ever been a time when so many Western European leaders, along with the EU chief and the NATO chief, all in the Oval Office with the president? Talk about commanding some gravitas, right? And then late last week, Trump backs off after he talked about a tripartite meeting where he would mediate. Then he said, we're sort of going to let them, work it out. He's talking sanctions. A month ago, he talked about dropping missiles on Moscow. Sounds like he doesn't really know how to solve this. But where do you think his stance is today on August 25th?
Well, I think the president jumped into this, obviously, picked it up from Biden, as the report said there earlier. And, he has worked with Putin before. Putin, if I could remind everybody, is about to hit 25 years in power as an autocratic leader on the 31st of this coming December. So he has been around for a long, long time, and he has a number of challenges he's facing. He's got 250,000 war dead. He has 950,000 casualties that have mounted amongst his troops. He's spending $150 billion a year in the last 4 years on this war. So this is not something that he is in his best interest to keep going. As a matter of fact, the mortality for Russian males has actually dropped from 68 to 66, and young men are leaving the country left and right. But from a President Trump standpoint, the Americans have spent $182 billion on this war. We've spent a lot of money on this conflict, and he's stuck, obviously, as everybody knows, between the Europeans who are backing Ukraine to the hilt and then his attempt to jump in and make peace. I think he's doing the right thing. I don't personally see this war going anywhere. I think it will end back where it started with the status quo ante bellum, which means Russia will control some of the Donbass there and obviously the Crimea. But this is a situation that somehow, even though President Trump is really good at the art of the deal, he's going to have to get Putin to the table and say, look, here are the things you're going to get out of this. Here's what the West gets out of this. Now let's put the tanks and the military away and let's get on with a peaceful solution to end this thing.
There was a lot of fanfare made over the show of force with the B-2 bomber flanked by the F-35 jets when, he gave Putin the red carpet treatment and a pat on the shoulder in Alaska. But Putin, in short order, after all of the follow-up meetings in D.C. with Zelensky and company, he exerted some real power, including attacking an American chip company and, near the Romanian border. Is he playing Trump like a fool? Is he playing the West like a fool, even though he may be weakened realistically?
Well, I think that's a good point. I think, remember he made the comment, I'd like you to come to Moscow. And this reminds me a lot of Churchill and Stalin in the Second World War, Stalin getting mad because he's bearing the brunt of most of the casualties. They end up having 25 to 27 million war dead, way more than what the Americans end up having to deal with in the Western Front. But I do think Putin is really playing a game that in the long run he is not going to be successful at. And that's why I think Trump, if he's patient and if his support base is patient, this is something that just, I think, from both a fiscal but also from a geostrategic standpoint, needs to draw back. And we do need to remember, Putin has 6,800 nuclear weapons. The Americans have 5,500. And now that's a serious drawdown from the 70,000 nuclear weapons between the two, the Soviets and the Americans from the 1980s. But I think we just need to have cooler heads prevail. And I think Trump can get Putin there. It's just going to have to be a situation where Trump may have to use economic and other types of tools in terms of sanctions to get Putin to listen.
You talked about writing the book about Israel's wars and all, and with all the talk about Ukraine and Russia, that's the Israeli situation kind of been on the back burner. What's next for the IDF? They say they're ready to occupy Gaza City.
Yeah, John, that's a good question. And this is one of my concerns is Russia has kind of been working with Iran, right? I mean, in these conflicts of the last couple of years there. And so Russia's been distracted with the Ukraine war. But I do think when you come back to Israel, I think there's no question that Netanyahu wants to see Hamas completely extricated out of Gaza. And whether he can achieve that is another question. As I said last time, the problem is the West usually comes down hard on Israel within 10 days or 2 weeks. Now, the current Prime Minister Netanyahu has tried to hold that back. But I do think there's no doubt, as we've seen even the last 2 weeks, all these European states, all the leaders of the European states, Germany, France, Macron, Britain, Starmer, have been upping the ante on wanting to bring back the idea of a two-state, not just a two-state, but an independent Palestinian state.
And Netanyahu is taking some hits in the polling within his country. We don't know. We're talking with Kurt Jefferson, professor of global leadership at Spalding University, on Wake Up Missouri this morning.
Now, last week, Randy seemed to offer some praise for President Biden.
No, that wasn't praise.
But he said, maybe the best plan was to just ignore Putin, like not engage with, a guy who we know is a bad guy, and seemed to have some reservations about Trump actually engaging with Putin. Have you seen silence work with bad world leaders, or is it smart of Trump to engage with him?
Yeah, it's a good question, Stephanie. And I think that depends on where the impasse is located. I think there are times where you have to isolate the world leader. There's no question that previous presidents, Obama and Biden, attempted to engage with economic sanctions and try to isolate both Putin and others who were causing problems for the U.S. George W. Bush, I think, did the same after having a failed summit. But I believe that the engagement with Putin is a good thing. I'm in the more Henry Kissinger realpolitik camp. I think if you look back at our engagement, 1959, Eisenhower met with Khrushchev. And, of course, Khrushchev was killing 3,000 Hungarians in October 1956. 1973-75, we have this SALT treaty, working with Brezhnev. He's responsible ultimately for 100,000 dead in Afghanistan between 79 and 89. And then Gorbachev with the INF treaty with Reagan in 87. So I actually think what Trump did was very important and very helpful to try to keep Russia engaged. You've got a country that has 11 time zones. They're sitting outside the Russian bear, is sitting outside Europe, and really it's a country that has to be engaged constantly to make sure it's not wanting to expand its tentacles into other parts of Western Europe and also into Asia as well.
Yeah, I mean, I made the comment, and boy, Drake's been hammering me with it, Kurt. I said maybe Biden was right by not communicating with him because it just seems to get more opportunity for him to continue to move westward, in Ukraine. But Drake likes to leave off the context, which was, but Biden didn't do sanctions right, and all it did was enrich Russia, whereas Trump is pounding on India and others who are providing a market for Russia. See, I think there are places, as you said earlier, where sanctions work, but if they're not administered properly, sometimes they're counterproductive, and we only have about a minute.
Okay. Well, yeah, and that goes back to John's point about Israel. I mean, Iran, found its outlet when it's being sanctioned by the West in China, selling oil to them, and that's a great point, Randy, in terms of, the Russians finding other markets like China to sell oil and sell other types of natural resources that continue to enrich themselves. But they have spent a lot of money, $600 billion, although it's only about 1% of their GDP, on this war. And there's a lot of unhappiness at home about this war as well.
Well, we'll have to see where it goes. We thank you for really helping unpack what is a really unbelievably complex jungle of a situation. Thanks, Kurt Jefferson. Everyone pick up the book, The Wars of Israel. It's a great read, and if you want to know everything there is to know about the history thereof and what it means now, Kurt summarizes it very, very well. Hey, thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, John. Have a great day.
When we come back, the Morning Report.
You're listening to Wake Up.
see how the markets are doing on this Monday open.
The markets were hot on Friday. We had the Dow up 1.89%, the Nasdaq up 1.88%, the S&P up 1.52%. That is a first record close for the Dow this year. That's because Jerome Powell was speaking last week in Jackson Hole, Wyoming at the Economic Summit, and all but confirmed a rate cut was coming in September. Of course, he's received a lot of pressure from the president and others a rate cut's been rumored for some time. Folks have been really displeased that we haven't already seen a rate cut. So the markets are looking hopeful for a rate cut in September. We, as far as the sectors go, last week, everything was up but consumer staples, with communication services, energy, and consumer discretionary being the biggest winners for Friday. Now, Randy, I have a question for you. Do you have a formal dining room? I
Yes,
have it. Yeah,
we do.
I think you would.
I like it.
And
we use it.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes she and I will have a nice formal dinner. Not semi-formal, but and then
you
when
just
we
sit
have
down,
people
just the
over,
two of you?
Yeah.
How many people can you sit? Because you
we have to add some chairs that they don't match the stuff, but I can 8.
See, that's been my frustration as well. Is like it doesn't feel like I don't sit my 5-person family or just fewer than 2 of us at the formal dining room. It feels
not
like
usually, but once in
too
a while.
much work because of course a lot of people eat in the kitchen.
Right.
But then again, whenever I do have like a party or like have people over, I think I had 17 people for breakfast on Saturday morning, and then I can't fit everyone around my dining room table, and then it's like, why do I have this?
But like you use it, but then you probably like when Drake comes over to our house, we have a kiddie table. We have
exactly. You have to do it, but. But I think, when do I use it? I use it on maybe Mother's Day, Easter, Christmas, maybe someone's birthday.
Yeah.
But that's
like
what,
us.
5 days out of.
Right.
Right. So a lot of folks are saying this just doesn't make sense,
I agree.
especially with the housing prices. And Brian Hauswirth is, I know the realtors were on the Fred Perry show recently talking about how the median home price in Columbia has gone down just slightly, but it's been pretty high. And so Axios is reporting that with these high housing prices, a lot of people are saying, just say no to dining rooms. And they're saying it's an unused space. A lot of people who, maybe live in an older home like I live in, and that has a formal dining room. Technically, people are converting them into offices or multi-use spaces. And I've actually thought about that. I'm like, I could use more of a space for like my kids to sit and do work and things, and for me to have an office. And I have this gorgeous buffet, and I worked really hard on it. And I'm like, I just can't let go of that buffet, but maybe I could keep it and put a desk in there.
I mean, my great grandma, my grandma, my mom, and now we have a little like a china cabinet that's got a glass front, and a lot of the memory little things we have in there. It's not to display to others, but we just like to walk through that room on the way to another room and just think about, oh yeah, that was from our trip here. Or, I remember when I bought that for you here or there.
I'm not like a knick-knack person, but yeah, where do you put all that stuff?
Where do you put that stuff?
Axios is reporting 80% of designers working on new home communities said dining rooms are way less important over the last year.
I think they probably
Gen Z's killing dining rooms.
They probably were formerly employed by Cracker Barrel and Bud Light, in my opinion. Give me my dining room or give me death.
Do you have a formal dining room? Let us know, 573-874-9390. And if you converted it, what'd you turn it into?
Back in a minute.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always
I'm Randy Tobler along with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and producer Drake. Stay with us online, on social, during the show. During the show, you can text us 573-874-9390, or you can telephone us at 800-529-5572. Now, once in a while, you see people in prominent positions doing incredibly stupid things. And perhaps you heard about this Rhode Island Deputy Attorney General who was out for a night with, looks like a girlfriend and a guy friend or two. I don't know. There were people out hanging out. And then ahead of this particular moment, you see the maitre d'. It's an outside maitre d' of sorts, standing there at a little booth, and just said to the officers as this is unfolding, we just want them out of here. We just want them out of here. And then this happened.
No, I'm not.
I know that your protocol is.
So you're trespassing, so we got to leave now. Unless you want to be in there.
We're not trespassing. You haven't notified us that we're trespassing.
Number one. What did I just say to you? You're trespassing. Let's go.
Number one.
I don't
Number
want
two.
to arrest you guys.
You're not going to arrest us. Number two.
So let's leave.
That
We got to go. We got to go.
Protocol
Let's go.
is
Let's
the
go.
citizen protocol is if we ask you to turn the body
I don't
cam
want to
off.
deal with this. Let's
Okay.
go.
No. I understand you don't want to deal with it, but the protocol is, and your protocol is if I ask you to turn off the body cam, you have to turn it off, and that's your protocol.
She's a lawyer, so she knows. Well, that's lawyer stuff, so that's not true. So we got to go.
No, it is. That's.
So then her friend starts mouthing off to the police. They both resisted arrest, in my opinion. I mean, they finally were arrested. They were cuffed. And this deputy attorney general, a special assistant attorney general, is it Devin Flanagan, not Devon, Devin, was arrested for trespassing and was placed on paid leave after the incident. The attorney general's office is reviewing the matter.
And now she's going to go on unpaid leave starting Monday.
In other words, fired?
They said they're reviewing the situation and will be on unpaid leave until a final determination.
I'm an AG. You're going to regret this. You're going to regret it. She said as she was escorted to the back of the police car. They wouldn't put their legs back in the car. I was afraid the officers were going to hurt them because the other one was screaming like a banshee, her friend. I mean, she would not get in the car. They kept trying to, it's like when you try to pack too much in your suitcase and they were trying to close the door. She kept putting her legs out the door. What are these people thinking? She's an attorney.
I think anytime you get into a situation where you have to say, don't you know who I am? You're probably in the wrong. So it was not a good look. And of course, the attorney general has now come out and said, she embarrassed not only me, but like herself and all of the attorneys in the office. But yeah, that's
now he did
not
say
a good look.
That she'd had apparently had a spotless record inside the office. I mean, this was just like totally unexpected. So the moral of the story, if you're on a mood-altering and a mind-altering substance,
if you're on a bender,
don't do it at home. Or I don't know. I mean, holy cow. Talk about filters.
This is why the president wants to send people into that part of the neck of the woods with the National Guard to take control.
Wow.
To settle down these AGs.
And I don't think she's made a statement. Well, I guess she did make a statement, apologizing, right? I think she's done that. But, wow. When was the last time we had a prominent official in Missouri that got in that kind of trouble?
It was state auditor. Gosh, she was a woman and she was running for office, John, and she was at the Democrat days, and some young campaign staffer caught her, and she had had one too many margaritas. Who was that?
Well, then there was 50 Shades of Governor. I mean, taking pictures and stuff.
Susan Monty, that's who it was. And she was, we have Lincoln Days, and, everyone has a couple drinks, and somebody asked her a question, and she was like, the margaritas are really good. And it kind of went viral. She wasn't, like, being obstinate or, like, getting arrested or whatever, but certainly that video and it's been a number of years ago, but for that time period kind of went viral.
I got a kick out of the fact she thought that that the protocol was you could tell everyone out there, just tell the officer to turn off their body cam because you're going to be stupid and make an ass of yourself. I bet the officers in the audience and those who know them and work with them and are related to them are laughing this one out. I don't think there's any that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I just Googled it, and it was from a DC news site. Margarita Monti is what they called
Monti.
her. Yeah, that was her last name. And so apparently she said something about the margarita machine was really good. And then shortly thereafter, I think, and I think it ended up in an ad later when she was running. And I think shortly thereafter is when the Democrats stopped doing their like statewide conference. I don't know that they brought that back even since then. This was in about maybe 2010. So it's been a minute.
That's pretty darn funny. Now, we have on the text line here, Alan says, I really don't have that big of an issue with it, but don't make it political and don't scream law and order when he pardoned everyone on January. Oh, he's talking about Trump sending National Guard into. And in case you didn't hear over the weekend, well, Friday, he talked about Chicago. Yesterday, he talked about Baltimore, that is sending National Guard troops in to bring some law and order to those places. They are, as is, I think, every major American city that's run by a blue mayor, by a blue leadership. They're in serious trouble. I mean, do we have to go to anywhere but on either side of 70, especially St. Louis? There are pockets in Kansas City, I know, that are very problematic. People racing around, doing wheelies in the middle of the city, just like these mini drag racers in the middle of the town.
Well, over the weekend, it was reported that there was basically a shootout near Kansas City Power and Light, like right in a popular restaurant, bar district. And I think someone died and people went to the hospital. It was pretty intense.
Yeah. John got a big kick out of Drake at the kiddie table, made him LOL this morning. We love you, Drake, and I'm just kidding you. Your youth and exuberance and excitement is just, it's inspirational. But we have to kid you a little bit,
Don't worry, as long as I'm able to kid you back. I was just going to say, last year there was a shooting at the Kansas City head office for the Chiefs, and there was a bullet that was feet away from Andy Reid.
My God, really?
Yeah. He was in the room, and there was a stray bullet that went through his office. That was the
we
thing
didn't hear about it till a year later.
Oh, my goodness.
Missed him by 15 feet, they said.
Oh, my goodness.
He's now installed bulletproof glass in his office at Arrowhead.
And look, you can call me the chief hater all you want, but Andy Reid is a national treasure. I love Andy Reid. He is just the best.
He really is. I mean, the guy
That's just because he coached the Eagles. That's why you like him.
Yeah, the news is 2 dead, 3 injured after shooting near Kansas City's Power and Light district this weekend.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally, I remember a tragic story in St. Louis several years ago now. Do you remember that when there was one of these gang wars going on and the drive-by shooting and some little girl, I'm talking about a toddler, or a little grade schooler, sitting inside their grandma's house or their mom's house and they're killed, with a stray bullet. It just kind of stuff breaks your heart. Just breaks your heart that goes on. And you know what? While there are the anecdotal complainants, when when they interview the man and the woman on the street, like in D.C., we've seen a lot of those proliferate on social media. Well, I don't want to see tanks in my neighborhood. The vast majority of people support this because they want to be able to go to the theater and walk down the street and go to a restaurant and walk to their car peacefully without worry about being taken out. And I think the whole environment there apparently has changed. Next time we talk to Bob Onder, we have to talk about that because he lives down there, right, sort of in, I think, near the heart of the city. And I'd like to just get his feeling of what he's experienced. Mark Alford?
D.C., doesn't Dr. Bob live on a houseboat?
Yeah.
I think he does, down on the Potomac.
Yeah, he was really near where that helicopter crash happened.
So Mark Alford's going to be with us Thursday, and I really want to talk to him about that. I mean, it's like, is this just what we're hearing from favorable news media, or is this really the real deal? I mean, are the street vendors, are they saying they're safer? Are the park rangers, does everyone feel safer? Do tourists, are they telling you they feel safer? We were there, 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't feel a problem, but we didn't go out at night, really. We were just in daytime.
Yeah, did you stay pretty close to Georgetown and those kinds of places? I mean, there are bad areas of D.C. that you want to stay the heck away from, even with the National Guard on duty.
Stephanie, you said that your posture's changed totally in the way you conduct yourself in D.C. and where you go and how you go.
Yeah, pre-COVID, I would take the underground different places, even at night, and I have not been on that in many years. And even walking During the day, I typically just take a car because I want to be safe.
And, we talk about criminality in our streets, and everyone knows about the subway problems in New York City and other places, that Chicago, where people who wants to take it unless it's like rush hour, everyone and their brother is getting on. Okay, I think that's a different story. I saw this great video on X from a New York subway. There's a guy standing on the side of the subway platform, two guys. One's an African-American guy. He's got something behind his back, his hands behind his back, and he's approaching a guy that's got a huge skateboard. I mean, this is like a monster skateboard. And, you see him sort of approaching, and the black guy approaches the other guy, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's a conversation. The other guy backs off, pulls a knife out.
Oh, my goodness.
And as he reapproaches the guy with the skateboard, the guy takes the skateboard, and I mean just destroys this guy just right in his face. He falls into the subway right-of-way, and he starts to get up and starts to approach the other guy. Well, by that time, cops approached, and they arrested him. But, that was great. Talk about self-defense with an unusual weapon, but a skateboard. And who knows? I think had it not been for the skateboard, I think that guy would have been slashed. It was a big knife. I mean, it was a big 6-inch blade.
I'm
big
not
deal.
typically walking around D.C. with a big skateboard.
No, I don't picture you doing that. I don't know. Have you skateboarded?
Maybe once. The kids have their little ripsticks and their skateboards and their what's that hoverboard thing?
Yeah.
That looks like a broken bone waiting to happen.
Yeah.
So every once in a while,
Razor. Anyone still doing the razors? Or
Yeah.
Oh, razor scooters. That was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of adults try to show off and take some pretty big spills.
Yeah,
so.
no, those are the things that X is made for, right?
Yeah.
I was a skateboarder back in the
Were
day.
you?
Really?
Oh, heck yes.
I can picture John sliding down the pipe, jumping off the stairs onto the pipe of the Capitol and back onto the stairs. I can just picture that happening.
Yep, I was in Southern California as a little guy.
Yeah,
Had the board back in the early days.
I love a set of rollerblades.
That explains the traumatic brain injury, John. Now we understand. Nah, just kidding. We'll be back with Leftovers.
Hello?
Stay tuned.
This is
It's time when we look at our pile o' prep and extract pieces from it. Stephanie's up first.
There's been some discussion about the Trump administration rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. And folks are asking, the Missouri marijuana market is really hot. It's doing very well. And it's highly regulated. And right now only, obviously they capped the number of licenses. So, it's kind of a captured market right now. And folks are saying, what if the feds open it up or what happens? And so the Independent actually did a deep dive with some economists and other lawyers asking what would the effect be on Missouri. And they said, actually, the 2022 provision legalizing marijuana already kind of envisioned perhaps the feds making some changes. And so that amendment says if federal law is amended to allow interstate commerce, still only the licensed cultivators in Missouri could import marijuana from other states. So kind of saying, hey, it's not just going to open up to where the licensees we have now, like anybody could sell marijuana. And they also said it would have tax implications for those in Missouri because right now they can't do deductions and that potentially would be
federal
changed.
Taxes.
Yeah, and even so, they said it's a very, very long process to reschedule a drug. So it would be evolving and certainly depend on the details of how the Trump administration would do that. But potentially, kind of offering some insights as to how that might affect the market here in Missouri. Interesting.
I wonder, does that aroma permeate the stadium at the Tigers games now, or at other games?
Absolutely, I've smelled it. The tailgates, that's for sure.
A couple of years ago, when we MC the homecoming parade, which we'll be doing again this year, it was like it was 7:30 in the morning, and I think I had a contact high. I'm like, woo, it's a lot this morning. So yeah, it's around.
Secondhand weed. There you go, John. What do you got?
I don't know if you guys fly Southwest Airlines much, but they just announced starting in March, they're cutting out flights in St. Louis. Their nonstop service to Little Rock, Des Moines, Tulsa, Oklahoma City.
Oh, goodness.
Wichita, and even Burbank, California will end. Southwest says they're shifting their flights to more of a north-south route.
Really?
Holy cow.
Doesn't start till March, but yeah, that's a bunch of them.
Well, I mean, the good news is that it was announced earlier this year in Columbia that United is coming back and going to offer those Chicago and Denver flights. So more options for folks here in mid-Missouri. And, of course, Southwest. Does Southwest fly out of Springfield? American flies out of Springfield, and they've really ramped up their operations. I've taken a couple of flights out of there, and so they've got good connectivity. If you're willing to, lay over, you can get just about anywhere.
Cool. More flights, the better.
Well, you could use those Columbia flights to go travel to Ireland, which is where the first major college football game was held this weekend. It was Iowa State and Kansas State. Before, we've had places like Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish play, but this kind of came out of left field. The whole bowl is called the Farmageddon Bowl, and it was played over there. There were bar fights. It was a crazy time, and, I just love that football's back. Iowa State did win, and a funny thing, Kansas State, they couldn't find an actual Kansas State flag, so they put the actual Kansas State flag instead of the college. So it's a good time, so we'll be looking forward to that.
Well, and of course, Mizzou kicks off their season on Thursday. We'll have the Tiger Tailgate, and it's a big week here at Zimmer headquarters, too, on the Eagle because Mike Murphy's new show starts.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Mike. He opens this evening with the Drive at 5, right? That'll be a lot of fun. Covering, and it's just in the mid-Missouri market with Columbia and thereabouts, and he'll be covering the news there. Have guest spots from John and Don and Brian, right, John? Are you on this afternoon on the inaugural show or not?
You better believe it, or I'll give you a little bit of a tip.
Okay.
Four-legged Ozempic.
Wow.
Oh.
There'll be no tax on that tip, I presume.
No, never.
Four-legged Ozempic.
Well, and something else about the football game on Thursday that folks should know, it sounds like Mizzou employees, many of them will be working remotely. You can check our website later for more info. But for those traveling in for the game, that should hopefully, Randy, help alleviate some of the traffic concerns.
We hope so, yeah. There's always a lot of congestion anyway, and hopefully they'll make some adjustments there. So stay tuned to the news feed here on your station as well as us, and we'll cover it. See you tomorrow.
M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.